Welcome to the Rising Entrepreneurs Podcast, where we feature top founders and entrepreneurs and their journey. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hey, everybody. This is John Corcoran with Dr. Jeremy Wise, and this episode is a little bit different. This is a live interview that we recorded at the Global Leadership Conference from Entrepreneurial organization, where some of the best entrepreneurs from around the globe share ideas and to learn about entrepreneurship. And of course, this episode is brought to you by Rise 25, where we help B2B businesses to give to and to connect to their Dream 100 relationships and partnerships, helping you to run a podcast so that it generates a referral pipeline and ROI.
Yeah, I mean, John, after both of us have been podcasting for over a decade, the number one thing in our life is relationships. And we're always looking at ways to give to our best relationships. And we found no better way to do that over the past decade than to profile the people and companies we admire and shout from the rooftops what they're working on. And this interview is no different. So if you've thought about podcasting, you should go to rise25.com to learn more, or email us at support@rise25.com.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the interview.
Enjoy.
Hey everyone, John Corcoran here, coming to you live from Entrepreneurs Organization's Global Leadership Conference in beautiful Honolulu, Hawaii in 2025. I am from EO San Francisco and also Rise 25, and I'm here with Chad Nikkel. And Chad, you've got 11 different businesses over the years, and tell us a little bit about what business you're focused on now, because I know you have a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, John, for having me. 11 businesses, basically serial entrepreneur. I think it's a sickness at this point, right? So. In there, 7 acquisitions and sold 4 of them, 2 to private equity. So currently I'm a leadership team coach and just do business growth, like really help you, grow your business, get to that next level. I like to call it the return on life, right? Get you that return on life as an entrepreneur, and that's next level growth. So the website's nextlevelgrowth.com.
And if you could, looking back on all these highs and lows of entrepreneurship, is there one like really challenging period that you can think about that you can share that people can maybe relate to, having gone and survived through something like that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I may think back a couple like big things stick out, right? So I filed bankruptcy on my first company. Mm-hmm. I think it was
a starter company, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it was my starter company, but it was a ways into it. I think I was like 21, 22 at the time. Made a mistake, got sued, couldn't pay it, and ultimately had to file bankruptcy and close that company down. And that was the only time I punched a time clock really in my life. I went to work for Learjet. I'm a pilot, so I love airplanes. I went to work for Learjet for a bit. So that was a hard time. But then further in life, I had a very large business, large operating roofing company in the Front Range of Colorado. Sold that to private equity, made a mistake in the purchase agreement, and left $6.5 million on the table uncollected. So
wow.
Yeah, there's a thing or two there that has been along the way. So wow. I always tell people, learn from my mistakes. I'll help you through those things.
Yeah.
Try and avoid the bankruptcies.
And now you're active in EO. You're incoming president, and you're also chairing Alchemy, which is the conference that's happening in Scottsdale in October of this year. Talk a little bit about what EO has meant for you and how it has helped you as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm incoming president for EO Arizona. We're a great chapter in Arizona, 220 members, and excited, but a little bit of imposter syndrome to take this thing over. Like, why'd they pick me, right? So Here we go. But EO's meant an awful lot along the way. It was there for my divorce. It's been there through, highs and lows. My mother passed away from an aneurysm. My firm was there for all of that. Lots of things with EO has been there to support. The highs of it as well, right? Going through forums, changing a forum, actually building a new forum. And just the global community. I've met so many awesome entrepreneurs all around the world that have been there for me. Just like here at GLC, you see somebody that you haven't seen in 4 or 5 years from the Middle East or Europe or whatever, and it's amazing to just spend time with them. So yeah.
And give us a little preview about Alchemy. I've been to the last 4 Alchemies, so I'm super excited to come. But awesome. It's going to be in Scottsdale in October.
Yeah, super excited to have you, John. So EO Alchemy Scottsdale this year, it comes in the middle of October, so October 14 to 16 in Scottsdale. Perfect time of year to be in Scottsdale. Got an amazing hotel, an amazing deal. It's basically half price of what the normal rate is. So the JW Marriott Camelback, looks out on Camelback. It's an incredible hotel, incredible space. But Alchemy is, this year we got some incredible speakers. Jesse Itzler's kicking us off. We've got Jess Sims from Peloton, doing some workouts with us. And, a lot awesome hikes, some wine tours, some really, really cool stuff. some secretive, stuff that we probably won't tell you about till the last, but really awesome stuff. And we're excited to have you.
Yeah. And the best time of year to come to Scottsdale too, October.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the weather's just kind of starting to cool down. You can still enjoy the time at the pool and time at the spa, play some golf. We've got a really cool golf tournament. Bad Birdie's like sponsoring and providing a lot of gear for the golfers. That's going to be super cool. But yeah, eoalchemy.com is how you sign up. We got a couple of spots left, but come check us out. It's going to be awesome.
Great. And where can people go to learn more about you and about your coaching business?
Yeah, sure. My coaching business, nextlevelgrowth.com. Follow me on Instagram. My name is Chad Nikkel, Nikkel. That's another way, just reach out, however. I love to connect with people. I love to just, sit down, talk business, have a beer, have a coffee and chill. But really want to connect with me, come to Scottsdale, eoalchemy.com in October.
Don't message them on LinkedIn. Just come to the conference. All right, Chad. Thanks.
Find me there. We'll hang out.
Yes. Thanks so much.
Thanks, John.
Hey everyone, John Corcoran. I'm coming to you live from Entrepreneurs Organization's Global Leadership Conference here in beautiful Honolulu, Hawaii, 2025. I'm here with Ashley Richards from E Squared Marketing Group, I believe it is.
Yes.
And Ashley, you're from Arizona. Tell us about your company, and we'll get into this whole story behind how you started.
Awesome. So I'm a third generation Arizona native, so very deep roots in the Valley. I own a digital marketing agency, and it's actually named after my kids. So my daughter, Ellie, and my son, Eli, I left my corporate job 9 years ago to start my agency, and they're really my why on why I'm here.
Do they tell mom all the time that they actually own the business because it's named after them? Because my kids would probably do that.
All the time. They think they work there.
And you started it 9 years ago. Tell us a little bit about how it started. Were you working in a marketing job and decided to go out on your own?
Yeah, I have a degree in marketing. I've been doing marketing for a really long time. And, I had my firstborn. I had my daughter in my arms, and I was in these crossroads of, do I go back to work full time? Do I be a stay-at-home mom? And in that time, 9 years ago, working remote was weird. Yeah. And so I felt like I was in this crossroad, like, what do I want to do? And I really felt strongly I could do both and I could do it well. So my husband really encouraged me to take a leap of faith. And I'm like, I'm just going to quit my job and start doing consulting work. And so I was doing consulting work. I had my son quickly thereafter. So I had 2 babies and a business. It was a blurry time in my life, but man, what a beautiful story it led to. And so now I have a team of 30 women, and 80% of my team is working moms. So I'm really big on advocating for the working mom. And it's just been a fun journey, a fun ride.
We have a lot of working moms as well. I'm a big fan. Want something done? Give it to a working mom to do. They will get it done for sure. So that's a big team. What were the challenges in the early years, though? 2 young kids, building up a business, satisfying clients. That sounds really difficult. How did you manage to staff up and get your stuff done?
I think one of the challenges was I felt like I had to act like I was a corporate mom, right? Like I felt like I struggled to get a phone call at 10 a.m. and I'd run outside because I didn't want them to know that my kids were at home with me. And so my struggles looked a little bit different than most entrepreneurs, but mine was balancing. I remember setting my kids up in front of a show and snacks, and I'd go outside and slide the glass door because I wanted to be professional. And so the quicker that I got over that, and knowing that all my clients knew I worked from home, they loved the mission and the movement of what our agency was about. That if you're going to call me, you might hear my kids in the background. And it's still like that today, right? If client calls me past 5 o'clock, I'm probably at a sporting event or picking my kids up, and they know that. I can't tell you how many times I was on Zoom calls where I'm like, my kid's homesick, and they'd make an appearance, right, in the Zoom meetings. And I think the quicker that I realized that community could just blend well. I could be a mom, I could be a working mom, I could do all these hard things together, and just how open my clients were about it was just incredible. So our challenges were a little different.
It must have been a little bit scary stepping into that, though, in the early days. Did you have doubt, should I really be revealing this?
Yeah, I live in discomfort. I love it. If I'm not uncomfortable, I'm not growing. And so that's always been a big movement of mine. I had a pretty rough childhood, and that has led me to just really be resilient. And so I loved the challenge. And with my husband's support of knowing he's never going to let me fall, let's try this out, take some risks, and that's where I was able to get the reward from it.
Let's talk about Alchemy. You are involved in Alchemy. It's the U.S. West Region for Entrepreneurs Organization conference coming up this year in Scottsdale in October. Tell us a little about your role in it and what you guys are going to be featuring.
Yeah, we're really excited to host this year. It's October 14th through the 16th in beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona. You don't want to be anywhere else in October. Let me tell you.
Beautiful time of year to be there.
It's going to be stunning. And I'm leading all the marketing and communications for the Alchemy this year. And I love my team. There's 7 of us that are all Arizona members that are leading the charge. And it's just an honor to lead with them and put together some incredible speaking events and opportunities for our members to come and experience Alchemy.
And you have Jesse Itzler is coming and a few other announced speakers.
We do. Jesse Isler is coming. John Gordon is coming. Several other ones that you're not going to want to miss. We're going to be doing a Alchemy Cup, so a tournament with some special guests as well.
Very on brand, yes.
Very on brand for Scottsdale. And some really cool experiences too. Going out to Phoenix Raceway and getting a meet and greet with the founder of that. So some really cool, like unforgettable things that you are going to be able to enjoy in Scottsdale.
And I assume you've been to other Alchemies before. Why did you want to get involved in doing that? Because that's a heavy lift, a lot of work for you.
You know, EO has done so much for me that it's very easy for me to give back. And those that are leading our co-chairs are mentors of mine. They're incredible leaders, so I can never say no to them. And so I really love the challenge of going. I've served a lot locally, and so the challenge of serving regionally was really just exciting for me. So that's what made me excited. I've never hosted an Alchemy. I wasn't a member when we hosted 10 years ago. So something new to challenge myself on with a community that I love so much.
And in the marketing world, what are you focused on now with changes that are coming down the pike with AI and content creation, stuff like that? You know, what are you seeing working? What are you focused on?
Yeah, so our agency really specializes in the organic content creation, and we manage all the pages, so all the customer service. And so we're seeing a big push that customer service is what you expect on social media. If you buy a shirt and you don't like it, you're going to send a direct message to that company. And so we are the receiving end of that. We're the customer service. So we are really leaning in on AI.
That's a big change for the traditional role of marketing, right?
It is a very big change. But, you know, still people connect on human to human level. So we are leaning into tools for AI, absolutely, but we're still seeing this need and demand for authentic connection and relationship, even digitally. And so we get to connect kind of the both worlds of nurturing AI, but still having that human to human connection as well.
Yeah, that's great. Where can people go to learn more about your company and also, of course, about Alchemy?
Yeah, so esquaredmarketing.com. Of course, we have a really fun Instagram page and LinkedIn, and then eoalchemy.com for the upcoming Alchemy.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Hey everyone, John Corcoran here, coming to you live from Entrepreneurs Organization Global Leadership Conference here in beautiful Honolulu, Hawaii, 2025. I'm here with Vincent, and Vincent has been a longtime entrepreneur, longtime EO member. And so you had, your first company was a flooring business. You've got glass manufacturing, consulting, construction defect, a bunch of other things as well.
Yeah.
Let's start with the flooring business. If you can remember back to the start of that, what were the early days? How did you end up starting that company?
Yeah, so going back to that, I actually bought into that business. And so they needed growth and scaling at that time. And even honestly, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I just knew I needed to get into a business. I needed to have ownership. And I had already been in that industry for several years. And I knew that I could be a major part in growing and scaling that business. So I was part of that business for 15 years before I broke off on my own completely.
Okay. And so that you were part owner in that one?
I was, yeah. So I had two partners in that business. There was one original founder and then two other guys that, like myself, that had come in later into the business.
And when you broke off on your own, became your own boss, running your own business, what were some of the challenges around that one?
Yeah, super challenging because, well, okay, I'll tell the story because there's a story behind that. And I sold my shares, so I wanted to grow that business to a point of where we could resell the business. My two partners in the flooring business wanted to continue to run a lifestyle business. We were at odds. Something had to give. I was the one that gave, and I said, no problem. So we worked out an equitable deal, and I moved on. And my new business started organically because I was looking for my next investment, maybe jumping into a business. And instead, I had a couple companies that I had been doing business with for 15 years said, hey, would you be willing to come help us grow and scale like you did with your previous company? And I thought, okay, yeah, maybe I'll do that. And I put together at the time what I thought was just a ridiculous proposal to come in and do something like that. And they both said yes. And I said, okay, that's a business. And so I started my initial consulting business. But what grew, because I sat on a lot of boards within the industry. I worked with a lot of industry trade organizations. And so I was heavily involved. I was certified. I had a contractor's license since 1998. So I had all this expertise. And I started getting drawn into this construction defect. So people that have things that go on, we're highly litigated country, right? So people needed help with job problems. And so I was helping businesses, and at the same time, I was doing all this construction defect stuff. And then fast forward, more than a decade later, I actually bought a business that focuses on tile and flooring defect. And I work with attorneys, work with insurance companies, and work with large tile companies as a result.
Got it. And you also have a glass manufacturing business as well on the side?
I do. So interestingly enough, when I was consulting for other businesses that were asking me to come in and help them grow their teams or scale their business, there was a glass manufacturing business that I got really deeply involved in. And I could tell they were in more of turnaround, and they had an opportunity for acquisition, and they needed help. And I said, okay, I'm only willing to do that if I can take an equity position in this business, and I want to be the president of that business, and I'll help you guys turn that around. And I did that. So I've been doing that for a decade, and then recently purchased a business. Because what's great about when you start to figure things out, and this is what I love about EO, because you can find EO's footprint all over my businesses, one of which is making yourself very irrelevant in the business and finding and growing a leadership team that can really run the business. So if you're all in for delegating, all in for empowering people, which I am, it has allowed me to do other things.
And so then the glass business, are you still president of that? Have you moved yourself out of that?
Yeah, I'm still acting president of that business, but I'm the coach. I'm the strategist. I know all of our top customers, and I'm involved at that level, but I have incredible leadership team that can run the business and do the day-to-day. And so I don't have to do that.
Yeah. So thinking about other challenges that you've been through over the years. So COVID obviously is one of them. We're recording this in spring of 2025. We've got tariffs that are causing some disruption right now. Talk about some of the other challenges you've been through and how you've gotten through them.
Well, COVID is really interesting because the glass business we manufacture out of Mexico, Baja California, so we're 8 miles south of the San Ysidro border. And so COVID was really interesting to navigate because you had two different countries, plus we're a California business. And so navigating California, navigating the United States, and then navigating Mexico was a challenge in and of itself. Fast forward to the tariffs, thankfully, which I just found out yesterday, by the way, is we're USMCA compliant. And we're exempt, which is huge because we were on the precipice of having to charge all of our customers this tariff or some sort of surcharge that was going to really impact our business. And then we found out this week that there's that extension with USMCA.
Dodged a bullet for now, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So navigating international business is really challenging. And then, most entrepreneurs own multiple businesses, a lot do. And so I think the challenge of how I manage my time is the most critical component for me, maximizing my own personal production in both businesses.
Yeah. Vincent, this has been great. Where can people go to learn more about you and check out your various different businesses?
Yeah, super simple, visbiz.us, visbiz.us. You can check that out, and there's links to my other businesses as well. So it's the easiest place to find out about me. Or just Google me. You'll find all sorts of interesting things.
Great. Vincent, thanks so much. Yeah. Hey, everyone. John Corcoran here, coming to you live from the Entrepreneurs Organization Global Leadership Conference in beautiful Honolulu, Hawaii, 2025. I am the co-founder of Rise 25, which does B2B podcasting and content marketing. And I'm also a member of EO San Francisco. I'm here with my friend Don Williams, who is a longtime EO member. And you've had a number of different companies. Don Williams Global is your primary brand.
Yes.
And you went through a really rough patch. You're in your 30s, you have young kids, you're going through a divorce and a custody battle. And someone came along and told you about this organization, which is the one we're standing at now here today. Can you tell us the story?
Yeah, I'd love to. So in my 30s, I'm married, have a lot of kids, companies. I'm the busiest time of my life. I don't think a person sleeps in their 30s really as an entrepreneur. Yeah. My marriage fails. I'm going through a divorce. Brutal couple years. Wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. But kind of the ironic twist in the story is a couple of years before that, a client had called me one day and said, man, I think you ought to join this organization. I was like, what's that called? And they told me YEO, which of course is the original name of Entrepreneurs Organization. I was like, well, tell me a little bit about it. And they did. And I was like, look, I'm not a joiner. I don't necessarily play well with others, so I'm going to pass. But now that I've been a member 11 years, okay, a lot of different positions of leadership. I look back at that day, that time I said no, okay, wish I'd said yes, okay, and so I now know that catastrophe is sometimes avoided with a no, but all progress starts with a yes somewhere.
Yeah.
And so love EO. My only regret in EO is that I didn't join way back when it was YEO, and I was a young entrepreneur.
And you've said yes to lots of things since then, starting with this Global Leadership Conference. So why did you come here, and what have you gotten from the last couple of days here?
So I'm an 11-year member. This is my 10th or 11th GLC, and I think I went to all of them, but I'm not 100% sure. I continue to come. Number one, the number one thing in EO for me is the connection. Love the learning, love the peer sharing, but people, we're all in the people business, and me especially. And so then in addition to that, I've had the opportunity for the last 4 years now to train SAP chairs on how to go get the money. And so we just wrapped that up yesterday. And this is our last day. And so I'm seeing people that I haven't seen since the last GLC, or maybe my first GLC, which was in San Diego. Okay. And so I'm just excited about the connection with my friends.
And you also said yes to chair the EO Eccentric conference, which you did earlier, I think it was maybe last year or something
6 months ago.
6 months ago. Talk about that experience. That's a big commitment. And why did you take that on?
So my personal mission in life is to help others help others. And so when the Fort Worth chapter applied for and won the bid, because that's the process, it's not just handed out, there's some competition. And so when we won the bid, the committee was already established and they elected a chair. I didn't feel the need to be the chair, but said I would serve if selected. And so the great thing about that event is I had shared with the committee that there's two caveats. One, you have to accept my mission. If I'm going to be the chair, I get to set the mission, okay? And the mission was to do the best event ever.
Not a small mission.
Well, no, but our
everything's bigger in Texas, right?
Well, and our first core value is think big, be bold, and that's pretty big and pretty bold. Yeah. Their reply was, Don, that's pretty clear, and I was like, I am a clear communicator. That people would say that about me. And so as we began that, it's about an 18-month process. We went out and all I did was lead the committee. The committee members, the chairs, they did all the work. Okay. I just led the committee. So I'd have like one piece in this big, hairy, gnarly event. It's a 2.5-day event. We raised $1.4 million, okay, which I don't think had ever been done before. And more importantly, we put every dollar back into member value, okay, which was our responsibility, and delivered an event that was a wow. And many people have come up, even here in Honolulu, and said, man, I was at Eccentric. That was the best event ever. And I was like, if you knew how many times we said that, we said that 500 times in our monthly calls, we're going to do the best event ever.
Even though you had a great committee, I'm sure it was a lot of hours that you had to put in. What did you get from performing that role? Like selfishly, did it help your business? Did it help you personally? Why does someone take on that large of a commitment?
So I wouldn't say was any personal benefit to me, like in terms of more business. The personal benefit would be in growing my leadership ability, which I'm fortunate to have a pretty good inventory there to begin with, okay? But this was totally different, out of my comfort zone. My wife wouldn't even trust me with $1.4 million to spend in 2.5 days. I mean, think about it. And all the moving pieces, like an event like this or a regional event, there's a lot of moving pieces. There's a bunch of vendors, contractors, employees, members. There's all these different pieces. And, we're trying to deliver the best experience for everybody. And so our protocol was this. On time, be early or on time. On money, on budget, be on or under budget. On your plans, because basically a chair owned half a day, okay? And so that the learning was one person. The first night social was somebody else's responsibility. The second night social, somebody else's. The third night, which we produced a rodeo, like a professional rodeo, had Taylor Sheridan from Landman and Yellowstone on horseback in the arena. I mean, like over the top stuff. So big plans, and then to be sure that it was good for everybody. So good for the Fort Worth chapter, good for the region, good for the globe, good for the members, and good for the world. Yeah. And I think that's a worthy goal, and everything we do in EO is to be sure it's good for everybody. We're not hurting anybody, when we do that. And so the committee, they totally bought in. They did a great job. They worked their tails off. I don't think there was any personal benefit to them either in their companies. Did they do more business? I don't think so. Did they, learning is a really heavy lift. Jeremy Brandt, I don't know how many hours he had in that, but a lot. From the chair standpoint, your hours kind of geometrically expand as you get closer to the day. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. The personal growth is worth more than the dollars.
Yeah. This has been great. Where can people go to learn more about you? And I didn't even mention, but you are an expert in contact centers and other forms of outreach. So talk a little bit about what you guys do.
So one of my companies, we're in the contact center space, and we do typically outbound, but we can also do inbound telephone calls, old-fashioned. Okay, never going to go away. Okay, as long as people have ears and mouths, they're going to want to talk, and so that still works. And then we have an insurance brokerage and a real estate company, and I spend most of my time coaching and consulting. Okay, helping other people just make more money. And so they can reach out to me at don@donwilliamsglobal.com, or my personal cell. I don't answer calls. I will answer texts. Okay, 817-691-4366.
Don, thanks so much.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Rising Entrepreneurs Podcast. This episode is powered by Rise 25. Please subscribe and check out future episodes.